everybody. Welcome to the Sharon and Joe Show. My name is Sharon.
Hi, everybody. My name is Joe.
I'm always happy when Joe's here on the channel with me, but tonight's video is kind of a little bit of a downer. Maybe not. It's kind of, there's some hope in it.
It's a bittersweet thing. You know, it dawned on me last week. We were we saw my son for the last time for about 9 months. God bless him, a lot of faith and courage, and he decided to join the military. And he's on the right path. There's a lot of crap popping off in the world right now, but, you know, his options, he didn't want to go to college, and so it was a good thing. So on the way home, I was thinking to myself, like, I think a God thought came in and said, you know, where would I be, or where would he be, or my sons be, or my pets, if I was still with the narcissist? And I spoke out loud, and Sharon and I had that just moment of clarity, like, whoa. And the rest of the ride home, we were kind of silent until we got home in the driveway, but both of us were thinking about that, and it was pretty grim. I always believe that when a codependent is dealing with a narcissist or anybody in that cluster B personality disorder, it's life or death. So there's three options for me, and I'll let Sharon explain hers. There's a couple she shares. One, I would have been 6 foot under. Two, I would have...
If you had stayed with the narcissist.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Two, I would probably be drinking every day again and relapsed. And three, in prison for some trumped up allegation of emotional and mental abuse, domestic violence, bullshit, so that she can control the situation.
You know, Joe and I have said this so many times, and I guess it bears repeating. We believe when you're dealing with a narcissist that you're in spiritual warfare. This is not, you know, another person. This is somebody that is truly evil and truly evil. So everything that connects with evilness, you're dealing with front and center. And at the same time, you're trying to deal with your kids and finances and your own mental insecurity and all these things at the same time. When we were talking about that last weekend, I was horrified because thank God we're both far enough removed from that situation where we're not, it's not the constant reminder. But when we really think about that, it was absolutely, it was horrifying.
Where would you have been? And one thing we can say now is not necessarily like who we were dealing, but what.
Yes.
Because what works through them is a malevolent spirit that's just wants to destroy, to kill, steal, and destroy. So your outcomes, if you were still in that narcissistic entanglement, not even necessarily like he was moved out of the house, but just still entangled, like contact of some sort, where would you be now?
Oh my gosh, you guys. If I, you know, and Joe and I, just like a little preface here, we're not exaggerating when we say this, that this is how bad it was for sure. Like, I can't imagine that it would be any other outcome. If I was still with my ex right now, one of us was not going to survive that. So, you know, he was going to be in prison or I was going to be in prison. And God knows what would be happening with my children. Or, you know, one of us was going to be dead, one was going to be in prison. Like, that was just like the way that it was going to be.
Pretty much without any divine intervention in a parasitic relationship, either the parasite dies or the host. That's it.
You guys, I used to be terrified all the time. You know, my ex is a lot bigger than me. And there were so many times I felt very vulnerable because it was just me, and I'm not that big. I was the protector of my children. And I was so afraid. I used to have a loaded weapon next to my side of the bed because he had broken in before. I didn't know what was going to happen. I lived in fear that he was going to barge his way back into the house. And then what could I do? It was his house too.
It was justifiable fear. Like both of us, like the stress and anxiety and the fear, these things that we were dealing with, it was justified fear. Like the guy, like came, what was he, passed out in his car with a loaded gun and several, like it was just nuts, you guys. 20 years each entangled in a marriage with whatever it is that we were dealing with.
It was horrible. And thank God we're separated enough from it now where it's not just like we're constantly thinking about it or constantly in there. But when we think back to it, let's talk a little bit about that, Joe, like how bad it was and how we got to where we are.
Well, I believe I can speak for both of us. We were in impossible situations. My best thing, I'll speak for myself, my best thinking got me entangled with a narcissist for 20 years. It was God that did the impossible. Like, but I was required to do some work too. There's a saying that you can pray for potatoes and carrots and all that crap, but if you don't pick up the shovel and water and tend to the garden, ain't no damn carrot's gonna grow. So it took my crying out to God, the God of my understanding, the God of my childhood faith. I'm a Christian, and He's faithful, and that's where my self worth comes from, knowing that God cared about me enough to save me out of all like the creatures in the world. Like it was just a gift, a free gift that He gave me. But man, did I have to go through it for my choices that I made, ignoring the red flags.
We had to pay the price. That's how it was. Yeah.
We were given mercy. If we were given justice, I believe we'd be dead.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Mercy is what we were given, and thank God we listened.
That's really the whole gist of this, because we didn't even know. And this is what I want you to think about if you're with a narcissist right now, or you're still going through it, or you feel like you're in that worst possible time. When you're in that worst possible time, it feels like it's never going to get better. And when Joe said we are in impossible situations, we were in impossible situations. The only reason, and it was slow and painful, and I don't want that to discourage you, because I want you to know that like it gets
painful
better.
with the damn narcissist.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
what I mean? It's like I thought at first like my dreams were shattered, but it was a freaking nightmare. I was just waking up.
Oh my gosh. And the wake up, it's horrible. And when you're dealing with something that is truly malevolent, truly evil, and to get to the other side, you have to walk through hell. It's horrible.
The only way through it is through it too.
But today, right now, Joe and I mean, would you say we're on the other side?
Oh my God, yeah. And trust me, guys, I was 1 foot on the banana peel and the other one in the grave. It was that close.
It's horrible, and other people can't understand. That's one thing that is very frustrating when you're dealing with something like this. Oftentimes you feel like you're completely by yourself. Like nobody can understand. Everyone will think you're exaggerating.
And even you will think you're nuts yourself. You might think you're nuts.
Exactly.
For me, and I didn't mean to interrupt, but when I found that there was others out there that experienced this, is I knew that I wasn't alone. And that's what I needed. And definitely I needed God too. But in a weird way, it's Thanksgiving coming up, and it's kind of like a gratitude prayer, a gratitude meeting. There's an adage saying, watch well your beginnings and the results will take care of themselves. And it's important sometimes to leave that door open to visit the past so that you can know you may not be where you want to be, but you're definitely not where you were. And you could use the past, which used to be a huge liability, as an asset to be able to help others out. So gratitude is an action, and that's what we're doing tonight, is just doing a little bit of action. God gave us a few minutes together to talk to you guys about it and to reach out.
I have incredible gratitude to God and to you, Joe, because you were integral in my recovery. It wasn't so much the relationship, just listening to what God said. And I believe that God is there for everybody, even if you think He's not. Think about, I don't know the best way for me to say this is, I started listening to the Holy Spirit, which I started just listening to what my conscience told me.
It's like the gut instinct that I was ignoring the whole damn time when I saw those red flags with the narcissist.
Yes, yep.
It was like unconsciously, I was like, I'm not going to ignore these voices anymore, or this voice that comes from my God conscious. Not that I was conscious about any of it, but I just, you do the footwork, you do little baby steps, and God will manifest through people, places, things, and even through spirit.
And it's also kind of like losing weight, right? Like say I was losing 20 pounds. You might not notice the first week that I've lost a pound or two, or next week, but after, when you get to a certain point, you can really see your progress. And that happens when you've been with a narcissist, when you get through it, when you're dealing with it, everything in the middle, it seems like it's never over. But there is an end. There is. And it's not forever away. It just feels like it. Like Joe and I, we have had such a tremendous change in our lives in 2 years.
Yeah, it's been, and you don't see it at the time that's happening, but
Exactly.
if you keep doing the work, if you keep baby steps into crawling, into walking, like before you know it, you're setting goals for yourself. You can't remember the last time you obsessed about the narcissist. You're not angry anymore. You see your own defects and your own shortcomings, and you're more concerned with your own growth rather than with a narcissist is a narcissist. They're going to do what tornadoes do. It's just how it is.
But it gets better if you hold on. And, there were so many times, I have seen Joe in a really, really bad place. Like a place, I can't believe how bad it was for you some of these times, these last 2 years. But when I think about you now, and you always said this at the worst time, I got to hold on today. Today, I got to hold on. And you just had that willpower to do that.
Well, in the middle of this, when they freaking completely leave you and all your loved ones, like our children or whatever, devastated financially, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, shit happens in life too. Like you get laid off of work or your car breaks down.
Well, that's something we've had to say so many times. This is a regular problem.
Yeah, it's just like the stuff that normal people deal with, that's great. But on top of it, like you're dealing with the power much greater than yourself.
And nobody's going to set you off aside to just, not have to worry about these things and take care of it while you go through the emotional stuff. You're going to have to go through everything. When you have to go through stuff and you think there's no possible way I'm going to be able to get through this, I cannot get over it, but you do.
I did it complaining. I did it, crawling, scratching, whatever. And, I didn't let go until I was ready to let go. And that's not like a conscious decision. When I was ready, God had removed it. And that's what we're here to say is like, God did for us what we couldn't do for ourselves.
I said to Joe so many times, I told him, because there were times when he said, like, I can't, I'm not going to make it. It just like, no, it's not. It'll go on without me. I mean, there were times like that.
I meant it.
I know.
It was real.
I know. I didn't know it at the time, though. I know it now, but at the time, I thought, I don't want to say I thought you were exaggerating because I didn't, but.
I was talking metaphorically.
Yeah, like I didn't know, like he literally means life or death. But there were times, Joe, when I was determined and I told you, I don't care what you think. I don't care what you say. I'm going to pull you over the finish line. Like there's just no possible chance that I'm going to leave you behind and go on without you and just leave you wounded behind me. And you got up and it got better.
It started with an individual choice to reach out to God. And it wasn't anything noble. I was desperate. And God is faithful. And I was about a year of no contact with 2 boys, 2 cats, a dog, and even my mother-in-law still living with me, going through this horrific divorce, every penny stolen from the account, the car taken. That's when I met, Sharon, and then we formed this triangle. God had his fingerprints all over it. And from that triangle, which is God, Sharon, and I, we have gotten through the finish line.
And I think it's important to remember that was what our destiny was. That's what God had for us. But there's something for everyone. Joe and I are not separate from anybody else. We're not special or this will happen to just us and not you. Everybody. There's a plan that God has for everybody. And guys, in a million years, 2 years ago, I guess 3 years ago, there's no way it would have just been impossible and crazy. I didn't even want a relationship to think that I would be with somebody and our whole life would change. That was what God had planned for me. I had no clue, none. So that's like you guys now. You don't know. Some of you don't know, but the plan is still there.
Yeah, and everybody's plan is different. It's set individually. I think one of the humbling things is that I still to this day, I don't always know what's best for me. And sometimes when I do, I balk and I cry and I ignore it. But that's where the relationship with God comes in and listening to that God conscious.
Yeah, Joe, you and I have been able to really have a real living relationship with God. He's part of our life.
And that's not metaphorically speaking either. We have to consciously make our faith a reality. We call God Dad. We think we're his kids.
That's important to say. You're right.
And we talk to him like he's Dad. And we have an intimate, not some Hail Mary, our Father, and get on our knees or anything. Like he is with us in this room. He's everywhere. And we just talk to him. And
for Joe and I, it's just like he's like a friend of ours that's here.
Yeah, and he's our savior. He's a king.
Yeah, he's head above us, but
he's still like it's intimate. It's like family.
And we'll even say Joe and I have a disagreement, or we don't, or there's some issue. We talk to God about it. We're like, well, all right, you know what? Let's see what Dad has to say about this, and we'll talk about it. And we've been able to really come together in a really beautiful way by doing that.
You will have a spiritual experience if you reach out. And God did for us what we couldn't do for ourselves. And for those people that are at the finish line, then you'll understand the saying is seeking became finding and believing became knowing. The spiritual experience is a knowledge like that surpasses all understanding, that you just know. For my case, my best thinking got me entangled with a narcissist for 20 years. I thought they were the problem. I was a problem too. I had bigger problems. And that's when I knew that like maybe that's something I can change with God's help. A narcissist is always a narcissist.
This is a thing. It's frustrating, and I'm sure many of you can relate to this. When you're with the narcissist, right? You're in this entanglement, and things start becoming really obvious that there's a problem here. What we want is like, this is our life. We just want it to be the way we want it. We want it to be normal. I want Max to be a good dad, a good husband. Why can't he do this? I'm already married. We have this house. We have this whole life together. What am I going to do? Like, this is crazy. Why can't he just be better? Why can't he change? Why can't he be fixed? And I think we all think that. All of us think that our narcissist is going to be able to be fixed. But the reality, and it's painful, it sucks, you guys, but the reality is that you have to go through it in order to be through it. Like you just have to. I heard somebody say one time that, what was the quote? It said something like, the longest breakup you'll ever have is your son growing up, or something like that, where it's painful, and maybe that's not the greatest thing to say, but I think it's like that. You have to go through it. You have to go through the most horrific things in order to have the life. You don't want to have to do it, but if you do it, you'll be happy.
There was a point where I had to come to accept that I couldn't change the narcissist, and I had to take a look at myself and see how I was delusional.
And it's unwelcome to have to do that.
No, it's very painful that how screwed up I had become through my codependency, but that sparked the recovery journey. Is like, man, I was pretty concerned about that, and I didn't want to ever have that happen to me again. And like, how do I get self-esteem, and how do I get self-worth? Well, you do worthwhile things, and that's how you get it.
The thing is, when it comes to a narcissist, every single person who's had to go through it, nobody regrets it on the other side. But it's just it's horrible. But it does end. It does. If you keep moving forward. If your house is on fire, get out, right? If you're with a narcissist, you're going to have to go through a process to get to the other side. But I'm telling you guys, as unwelcome as it is to have to do that, it is so worth it. I feel God perfected us going through this. It was what had to be done.
The hottest fire has forged the strongest blades.
It's unwelcome, but at the end of the day, once you go through it, if you go through it and you deal with it, your life is going to be like you couldn't even imagine.
And the bottom line is that we were in impossible situations.
Yeah.
Impossible. There was no way we were getting out. That's where God came in. We had to do the possible. It's the only way that I know. Like, it's the only way I know. Like, you have to seek God. There's no other way.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's the real secret to the recovery.
And we make it no secret, and that's why we want to let you guys know is it was from that point forward, the doors began to open as the other ones shut.
And the thing is, you guys, it took 2 years, a little more than 2 years, for Joe and I to really feel like finally we're here.
And it took 2 years to get our own bedroom.
Yes, that's true. Oh, my gosh.
True? Are you going to post that up? Yeah. So Sharon and I, we made sure that the kids had their own bedrooms and stuff because they've been through shit. And, we want to give them a little bit of privacy and independence and stuff. But we were living basically in a shacked up dining room area. And we had a sliding little folding door. And my son, John, who's in the Army now, we finally get to have a bedroom with a door on it. So, yeah, we were down. We were deep down, guys.
We had let the kids all have their own room, all right? And that meant that there was no room for Joe and I. So we literally were in the middle of the house and for 2 years. And it was horrible, right next to the kitchen. So somebody would decide to get like a snack at 11 p.m. Crinkle, crinkle, crinkle while we're trying to sleep. It was horrible.
Yeah.
So now Joe, I have to give it to you because I'm so, so, so grateful to you. He did the whole room for us. He painted it, he cleaned it, he did everything. And we're moving in. Tonight we're sleeping in there for the first time.
Yeah, it's going to be weird, but it's those little things like that to be grateful for. You know, many nights I would call up Sharon when she was living in states away, and I would be freaking out. And she would remind me, hey, Joe, do you got to make any decisions like right now? And I think about it, I'm like, no. Well, do you have food in the fridge? Yeah, I got a little bit. Do you have gas in the car? Yes. Do you have a roof over your head? Yes. Do you got a bed? Yes. And I began to realize, like, not only do I have everything that I need, I have an abundance of things. It's all in the perspective of
You
how we look
really
at it.
do learn how to be grateful when you're going through something like this, because you're right. Like little things, they seem like little things, but they're actually the things that matter the most and the things that give you peace.
But we need help from God and other people that understand us in order to realize that. Because I didn't see it on my own. Like, I still complain and bitch. And it's not until like I sit down and maybe talk or share, like a problem shared is a problem cut in half. We couldn't do that with other people that didn't know about NPD. We had to find community and other people to realize, hey, we're not alone. Yes, we're nutty people, but we're not nuts. And we got bigger problems than the narcissists. It's our codependency and our own character defects.
That's the most unwelcome thing about this whole thing to me is that, like I said, you're going along, you're living your life, and all of a sudden, it's almost like you're just like picked up, turned the other direction, and now what we want to do is turn around and run back to what we're familiar with. But the reality is, only by moving forward one step at a time. But you know what, guys? It's not 100 years from now. It's like anything else. If you put your effort into it, if you have hope and faith, and one day at a time. Joe, you did that so many times. So many times you would white knuckle it through the day. And today, like, I don't want to put words in your mouth. Are you happy you did it?
Yes, there was days, you guys, where it was just like the alternative was like not good for me. You know what I mean? Like depression leads to other things. It was like, you know, if it gets that bad, I could always do that. But for now, I just am gonna hold on because I know that that's what I'm supposed to do, and thank God for that. But I plead with you. I plead. And I hope the pain's great enough. See, I have a high tolerance for pain. The pain was great enough where I had to reach out to God. And it was through that active, like reaching out to something that I couldn't feel, touch, or whatever. That's how I began to like understand other people and reach out to people that I could feel, touch. But I had to do that intangible spirit part. It's the only way out.
It's the answer. It is the answer. Whether you want it to be or not doesn't matter. I'm telling you, it's the answer. God is your answer. I don't know. I don't believe personally that you can get through this and be successful or have a life afterwards if you don't completely hand God your life and let him mold you the way that he needs to.
And if you're on the fence, I dare you to do it. And if it doesn't work, then I'll refund your misery back to you.
Yeah, I mean, guys, it worked for us, and we wanted to tell you that there is a way out. And just when Joe and I were thinking about where we would have been compared to where we are and what the difference is, it was just incredible.
And a God of your understanding, like to me and Sharon, our Thanksgiving is to Jesus, you know, and it could be to God of your understanding or misunderstanding, but we were beyond human aid. And that's the bottom line when you're dealing with spiritual warfare. It ain't like battle where you go do 100 push-ups every day and physically get in shape, although I recommend that too. It's a spiritual battle, like we're dealing with a power much bigger than us.
All right, Joe. So I know we talked all about that. And do you want to say the announcement that we're going to have? Do you remember what it is? Remember what I said?
Something about revealing a photo or something?
Yes.
Like
All right, you guys. I'm going to reveal a photo of Joe and myself that we took. Well, Paris took it, was it like a week ago or so?
Were we downtown Cleveland?
Yes.
For her honors graduation thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So, all right, you guys. So look for that in the community page. If you want to see a great looking couple, go ahead and check out the community page. Joe and I are going to be on there. So enjoy. All right, Joe, what should we do now?
I don't know. I think we're going to eat some pizza because I worked 14 hours today. And then we got to get ready. Oh, guys, we're going to put out soon after Thanksgiving, Twas the Narc Before Christmas.
Yes, the
That's like
annual,
how-
third annual.
The third annual Narc Before Christmas. So we'll do that too. But any comments or anything, please give us your input. Like this is, there's no teachers here. We're all students. There's only one teacher.
All right. Well, with that said, I will talk to you guys later. And I guess that's it. Bye, everybody.
God bless you.